Welcome to this edition of the Fantasy Football Goon podcast. This time we're going to go over the NFC South, and before we get into that, we're going to do a little bit of a news update. Joining me as always is John Santucci, Tooch. What's going on, Tooch?
Hey, Joe. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing all right. Ready to talk some fantasy football, NFC South, and some breaking important news.
Yeah, some big news coming out of the NFC East today. Ezekiel Elliot suspended for 6 games for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. John, what does that mean for fantasy owners?
Well, that's just huge because he's, one of the top picks off the board. He's most often the third pick, sometimes the fourth pick. And now, he's going to slide to, second round possibly. I just don't know where he's going lately. It's just, that people are also waiting on him to appeal, which could cut his suspension down.
Yeah, this is starting to sound a little bit like what Tom Brady went through with the Deflategate situation, and who knows? I mean, it's very possible that this suspension will be carried over in the next year because of appeal.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even think of that. I thought maybe, NFL could offer him, some kind of plea agreement, maybe 4 games or 3 games, but it's a good point about, he can still play while the suspension's going on, it's not a given thing, right? If under appeal, a player can still play.
I believe that's the case, and I mean, just look at Tom Brady, what he did a couple years ago. Either way, still a guy worth taking. If you want to take him at the end of the first round, I'm okay with that. I mean, 10 weeks with Zeke is a phenomenal 10 weeks. And also, if you can get him in the middle to the end of the second round, I think you're doing pretty good for yourself.
Yeah, especially with that Dallas offensive line. Last year we had Le'Veon Bell suspended for 2 games, I think. And,
yep.
He still put up a monster year. But people seem to be, in mock drafts, people seem to be shunning picking Ezekiel Elliot. They just don't want to deal with the headache. So it remains to be seen. That's why, it's good to have your draft, if you can, the night before the season starts.
Yeah, like us.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, still keep an eye on the situation. Zeke is obviously going to appeal this. He announced that today. So we may have some more information in the coming days, and just monitor that before your draft.
Yeah, definitely.
We had some other big news in the NFL today. A couple of big trades. You have Sammy Watkins being traded to the Los Angeles Rams, and then on the flip side of that, you had Jordan Matthews being traded from Philadelphia to Buffalo.
Right. This was basically receivers for cornerbacks deal. I think Philadelphia got the Bills' talented cornerback Ronald Darby in exchange for Matthews, and the Bills got E.J. Gaines from the Rams for Sammy Watkins, which I think Sammy Watkins was playing for a new contract. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
So maybe Bills just didn't see any contract in the future, so they felt best about dealing him and plugging some holes in their secondary.
Well, and Watkins literally is hurt almost every year, so it's a good dump off for Buffalo.
Yeah, and this year he seems healthy, and he has that gaudy 16-yard per catch average, and he's full of promise, just can't stay healthy. Now the injury, I believe, is his toe. I think, right? Is his toe recently?
Yeah.
His foot or his toe, and that could be trouble. So I don't see. I don't see Buffalo contending this year. Especially in that AFC East division, which we talked about.
Yeah,
it's been New England's for quite a long time, and even Miami has troubles. And they made the playoffs last year. They're starting a new quarterback. Buffalo probably just wants to get another year under his belt with this new coach and the young team they have, and Tyrod Taylor's under a contract year as well.
This is true. And then let's talk a little bit about Jordan Matthews and how he's going to fit in Buffalo.
Yeah, I think he's going to be playing in the slot, which is where he seems to play his best. And then you'll have Anquan Bolden and Zay Jones manning the outside, and I'm sure they'll rotate all 3 of those guys around, though.
For sure. Any of those guys fantasy relevant in your opinion?
I think so. I think you can take flyers on all 3 of those guys. Like I said, I really like Zay Jones. Anquan Bolden, he's old. He produces every year. He's great in the red zone. and across the middle. Zay Jones is really lighting up in camp. He's a rookie, but he looks to have a good future.
Absolutely. And speaking of the future, let's move a little bit into what this podcast is supposed to be about, the NFC South. This division, let's start off with the team that made it all the way to the Super Bowl and kind of couldn't finish it out, the Atlanta Falcons. Dan Quinn is in his third season with the Falcons.
Right, and they're still the team to beat. Great offense led by Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Devontae Freeman. And those are, that's their big three. And that's, that whole offense goes through those three guys.
It sure does. And if you're looking for a quarterback that you can get, in the later rounds of a draft, Matt Ryan's a great bargain pick.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. He was fantastic last year. Finished second in the league for quarterbacks passing yards at 4,944. Second with touchdowns at 38. And second with passing yards per gain at 309. Finished first overall with yards per attempt at 9.3. And, he's a top two quarterback, as you can see.
Yeah, and for where he's going in drafts, I don't know about you, John, but in my mock drafts, I see Matt Ryan going anywhere from the tail end of the fourth all the way to like the middle of the sixth. Is that on par with what you're seeing?
Yeah, and I've seen him. Yeah, that's about right. I think I've seen him fall to the seventh.
Oh wow!
Occasionally, but 4 to 6 is great. And where do you have him ranked this year?
I have Matt Ryan ranked really high. I have him ranked as the 5th overall quarterback, only behind Rodgers, Brady, Breeze, and Cousins.
Right, yeah, and I might even put him ahead of Cousins, but they're to me they're probably pretty close to equal.
Yeah, they're really close. Both great guys. Both got a lot of talent around them. Let's talk about their running back who just got paid this week. Highest paid running back in football, Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, he's been solid, and he's just produces year after year. He finished 9th with rushing yards, and that was sharing a backfield with Tevin Coleman, although this year Devontae Freeman is going to be the lead dog with that new contract. He also had 462 receiving yards, and he finished 7th overall in total yards, finished 12th with 281 touches, and he had 11 rushing touchdowns. So Devontae Freeman, he's kind of overlooked, and he's getting drafted later half of the first round.
Yeah.
With Ezekiel Elliott's looming suspension, I wouldn't be surprised that people kind of saying, Elliott, no, let's just try Freeman and be safe. Kind of a conservative pick. What do you think about that?
Yeah, he's a safe pick. He's been very consistent. And one thing about Freeman that people really underestimate is the fact that he's got great ball stability. He does not fumble very much.
Yeah, he catches the ball real well out of the backfield. He's just a good player. I drafted him as my first round pick. I picked middle of the round and kind of got some disbelievers like, why the heck is he picking Devontae Freeman? So he had a monster year 2015. Last year he did. I guess it was an off year, but you can see he did pretty well last year as well. And I'd be happy to have him on my team.
Yeah, and I mean, if that's an off year, then I'll take it every year.
Yeah, and he's they have a great passing offense too, and that only helps him. He had 54 receptions. That was good for 5th overall for running backs.
Yeah, and his backup, or if you want to call him a backup, or should I say his partner in the backfield, Tevin Coleman, is he worth a handcuff this year?
I don't know. He's in a contract year as well, and I don't think he's going to get one from Atlanta. But if you look back on last year, Devontae Freeman had 13 total touchdowns, and there was Tevin Coleman right behind him with 11. So they do like to use both of them. I'm just not sure if Sarkisian, he likes to go through one running back, but I imagine Tevin Coleman will still get plenty of touches.
Agreed, and I think he's worth a great late round pick, a guy you can stash on your bench. I have no problem stashing him because I imagine Freeman's going to get hurt at least one point during the season, and if you can get 1 or 2 starts out of a late round pick, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, and Freeman's been real durable though, so we'll see. I know last year a lot of people speculated that, hey, Devontae Freeman's, he's just not special enough. And here's Tevin Coleman. He's got a lot of speed, catches the ball real well. I thought Tevin Coleman would be the lead dog, but that just didn't happen.
I guess we got to wait and see again this year. Let's talk a little bit about the wideouts down in Atlanta. You got arguably the best receiver in football in Julio Jones.
Yeah, and last year he was hampered by a foot injury, I think.
Turf toe, I believe.
Yeah, he still had 129 targets. Finished with an okay season. The injuries slowed him down. He still had finished second in receiving yards, 1,409 yards. Found the end zone 6 times. Let's see, for receptions he had 83. So yeah, even though he was a bit gimpy, he's still one of the top receivers in the league.
No doubt about that. He's a guy that you want on your team, and if you can get him in the first round, and if you want a stud, he's going to be solid for you. Behind Julio, You got Mohamed Sanu and Taylor Gabriel. Gabriel had a really good season last year.
Yeah, he did. Doesn't catch many balls, but the ones that he does catch have a tendency to go for touchdowns. I had him on my team last year, and he came through. Luckily, a few times when I had him, but I think Mohamed Sanu is still the second wide receiver on that team.
I would agree. Sanu battled injury last year, but this preseason he's looking great. He had a great touchdown catch in the preseason yesterday.
Right, and I'm not sure. Did they draft any wide receivers?
They did not.
This year?
No,
they didn't. Okay, so their wide receivers. I guess the 4th wide receiver is Justin Hardy. But yeah, Julio and I would, Mohamed Sanu and Taylor Gabriel are probably like 4th or 5th wideouts. Just grabbing a spot on your bench.
For a bye week, I think they're great options.
Yeah, if you don't have Julio, and for streaming a wide receiver, they're not bad options.
For sure.
I can't remember how many targets they had. Mohamed Sanu had 4 touchdowns. I think Gabriel had 4. Justin Hardy had 4 touchdowns also. Didn't realize that. Taylor Gabriel had 6. So yeah, there's a good chance that these guys are gonna produce on a streaming option.
For sure. And then if we're moving on to the tight end position, you got 2 tight ends really in the mix. You got Austin Hooper and Levin Toilolo.
Okay, I think Austin Hooper is the guy you're going to look at drafting there, and he's a guy a lot of people feel could take a step this year. I don't know. I'm kind of the mind to kind of stay away from there. Maybe as a second tight end for Austin Hooper. He had only 19 catches.
Yeah, he's going to get more looks because he's going to be the guy this year. I believe. Yeah. I think he'll get some rapport going with Matt Ryan. Like you said, middle of the pack tight end. I have him ranked at number 22, so pretty far down the list. But if for some reason he has a breakout year, he's a guy you should grab off waivers and use as a backup.
Yeah, he had 3 touchdowns, though, on 19 catches. So he's a guy they do look at in the red zone.
Yeah, so worth a look if you need a tight end in a pinch. And then if we're moving on down to the kicker, it's your favorite guy, Matt Bryant.
Yeah, I happened to pick him up, I think, when the kicker I drafted, who I can't even remember. The kicker I drafted, I drafted the kicker from Dallas, I think. Bailey. Was it Bailey?
Oh, Dan Bailey, yeah. Yep.
Dan Bailey, who's okay. And then he went on a bye, and someone had let go of Matt Bryant. Man, he went nuts. He finished with 158 total points, and that was good for first overall among kickers.
It's funny you mentioned that. I have him ranked at first in the kicker position.
Yeah, and he's also one of those old, been around a long time guys like Adam Vinatieri. Not sure how old he is. I think he's in his 40s as well, but kicks in a dome, and for kickers, like the added incentive to draft dome kickers is always there.
Absolutely.
Guys like Vinatieri and Ryan, and the guy in New Orleans is Will Lutz this year. We'll talk about him in a bit, but the guys in domes, those are guys that are unaffected by weather.
This is the truth.
Half the year. So.
Yep. So watch out for those dome kickers.
Yeah.
So Atlanta's got their bye week in Week 5, but let's talk a little bit about their defense before we wrap it up with them.
Yeah, they had a good defense, good enough to reach the Super Bowl. They have a 13th hardest schedule. Opponents' winning percentage of .521. They have a very opportunistic defense, and that's Vic Beasley led the NFL in sacks.
Yes, he did.
Then of course they have a decent secondary with the guys Alford, Brian Alford, or he's just really good cornerback, and Deion Jones at linebacker and Keanu Neal at safety, and it's a good defense. But
this is a Dan Quinn team at the end of the day, and they are a defensive forward team, and they actually had a great draft. They picked up a bunch of guys to bolster their defense. The first round pick they picked up from UCLA, a defensive end, Takaris McKinley, 6'2", 250 pounds. Kid is huge. Could be a great addition for them.
Real good pass rusher.
Mm-hmm. And then they also drafted a linebacker from LSU, Duke Riley. So he's 6 feet tall, 230 pounds, big guy coming from the middle. And then also they have a cornerback they picked up from San Diego State, DeMonte Kazee. So he's expected to be pretty good as well.
Yeah, they're thinking they don't want to give up as many points as they did to the Patriots in the Super Bowl in case they get back there again.
Especially in the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Tom Brady happened to pick them apart, and they're looking to avoid that. So, is this the team you like for top of the finishing first in that division?
I do. I really like the Falcons this year. I find it hard to believe that they won't win this division, especially with their middle-of-the-line schedule. Nothing too hard, nothing too easy, kind of right in the middle. I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, and after you talked about those draft picks, I looked for this defense to take another step. So I didn't have them. I had them on my radar, but I think I'm going to move them up a bit. As far as because you and I are strategy-wise, we wait till the end to pick our defenses and our kickers.
Yep.
So and sometimes those Falcons are hanging around there. It's not a bad pick.
No, I have them ranked at 24, but they have upside, they have potential. And again, defense is kind of one of those things that you've got the top 5 teams and the rest of it's kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah. And, they do play New Orleans twice a year, and that's a good offense as well. But I still like Atlanta's defense this year. And you got me in the mood for drafting Atlanta, Joe.
There you go.
After hearing that.
Well, I'll have to watch out. You can snipe my picks on draft day. But let's move on to the next team here. Let's talk about the Carolina Panthers. You've got Ron Rivera in his 7th season and with the Panthers, and then you got Mike Shula as the offensive coordinator for his 5th year.
Yeah, you have to wonder. I know whether or not Ron Rivera's seat is safe. And they had Super Bowl hangover. They were there the year before, end up losing to the Broncos, I think, right?
Yes.
And that Broncos defense was just too much for Cam Newton. Cam Newton kind of had Super Bowl hangover, but still finished with 3,500 yards, had 19 touchdowns only, so it took a little dip there. Didn't have as good a targets as you'd like.
Well, Calvin Benjamin was down last year, right?
Right. He was kind of, from what people say, he was out of shape a little bit, But from all reports, Calvin Benjamin has been looking really good in training camp. So again, he's a guy I'm looking at again. I had him last year on one of my leagues, and he did okay for me. He was a monster the year before, but yeah, they didn't. I think they drafted one wide receiver, that's Curtis Samuel, who kind of is also a running back. They run. He can be run out of the backfield as well from Ohio State. And that kid's something to look at, but the main guy you're looking at on that offense now that intrigues me the most is Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I mean, they drafted him with their first pick out of Stanford. You know, he's a big kid. He's 5'11", weighs 200. Going to be kind of getting through the tackles and could be a guy that takes this league by storm if all goes according to plan.
Yeah, all reports out of camp is that he's looked fantastic, just unstoppable. And I like this kid, Joe. I think he could be a PPR monster. You know, I'm thinking like 5 to 10 catches every game. You know, and that like finishing for a running back. You know, that's good. 80 catches.
I mean, to me, he has the potential to be this year's David Johnson.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. I know. You know, I do a lot of mock drafts, just practicing out of my position for our league this year. And I took him like my second pick, 17th, and somebody in the chat room was like, "Really? For real? Christian McCaffrey at 17?" And I'm like, "Dude, this guy's gonna be a PPR monster. 5 catches a game is 80 catches. That's 80 points right there. Not to mention the yards that he's gonna get off those catches.
Yeah.
Plus, he's gonna rush. He's gonna return kickoffs.
And
you know, this is a kid I really like, Joe.
I'm on board, man. And people forget that Jonathan Stewart does not catch balls out of the backfield.
Right, and he's had his share of injury problems last year. You know, he was in and out last year, and they had a real problem replacing him last year. You know, that was part of the problem. That's, you know, pretty much was the impetus for them drafting Christian McCaffrey this year.
For sure. Do you even consider drafting Stewart?
You know, I've asked myself this question, and I'm not looking at him with McCaffrey there. If I happen to get or if I target McCaffrey, there's no way I want McCaffrey to have like all the touches because I'm just greedy.
Right.
But you know, I really like this kid. So
yeah, I wouldn't touch Jonathan Stewart with a 10-foot pole. I mean, he hasn't been consistent at all. He doesn't get that many yards. Doesn't even score that many touchdowns, really. So for me, McCaffrey is the only running back that I'm willing to draft from the Panthers.
Yeah, so I think we're pretty much in agreement now. Jonathan Stewart, though, when he's healthy, he's not bad. Last year he just wasn't healthy. You know, he didn't really do much. You know, for I see him had 824 yards. So for an unhealthy year, that wasn't bad. Touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, like you said, he doesn't get in the end zone that much. So I don't have his number with me in front of me. He didn't score much. So yeah, he had 9 rushing touchdowns. So actually, he wasn't bad last year. You know, he had 9 rushing touchdowns and didn't score any receiving touchdowns. But like you said, he doesn't catch the ball as much anymore. But as much as we knock him, you know, he was kind of there last year. You know, he did produce a little bit. But yeah, I'm still targeting Christian McCaffrey because like I said, 5 catches a game for that kid is not unreasonable. That's 80 catches.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's unreasonable at all. And when you talk about some of that wide receiver talent that's around him, I think that'll help open things up as well. We talked about Benjamin already, but let's talk a little bit about Devin Funchess and Curtis Samuel.
Right. Now, Funchess is the guy that's going to be opposite of Benjamin, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of built like Benjamin, too. Benjamin's a big guy. I guess from what I heard, Benjamin showed up to camp like 260 pounds or something like that. But you know, he's down to 240, which is a good weight for him because he's 6'5".
Right.
You know, so he's built more like a tight end, like a small, like a thinner tight end. But Funchess is also big too, and I don't know. That Samuel's a speed guy. He's like 5'11", 180, but he's a lot of speed.
I imagine he'll be coming out the slot too.
Yeah, and you know McCaffrey's gonna motion out of the backfield into the slot too. I imagine a lot. That's why I like McCaffrey a lot. But Samuel might take a year to develop, but McCaffrey, from all accounts, you know, they're going to be using him a lot.
No doubt about that. And you know, then we can't talk about the Panthers without talking about one of the best tight ends in the league, in Greg Olsen.
Yeah, he just every year gets it done, right? You got to love him, you know. Second among tight ends in targets with 129. finished with 80 catches, so might take a little bit of a decline this year with McCaffrey there. I know you and I are really high on McCaffrey. This is kind of like the Delaney Walker situation that you and I see, you know.
Yeah.
But Greg Olson's still good, though. Last year he had over 1,000 yards. Greg Olson had over 1,000 yards.
Really good in the red zone, too.
Yeah, really good in the red zone. Had 3 touchdowns, though, only. You think you kind of feels like he had more, you know, but, you know, he had 1,000. He had a bunch of 100-yard games, you know, with 80 catches. You know, that's 5 catches a game. So he's got a good floor. I expect him to take a slight step back, though, like I said.
Yeah, that's why I moved him from from number 3 to number 4 this year, but still a quality tight end.
Yeah, I'm not drafting him as high as most people would. You know, if he happens to fall to like the 5th round, I might grab him, but he's going like in the 3rd, 4th round. So
yeah, a little too early for my liking.
I think so too. I'm looking at him as like a 5th, 6th round draft pick, just because, you know, McCaffrey is going to catch a lot of balls. You got Kelvin Benjamin. You know, they may try to do some stuff with Funchess and Samuel, and that's just going to take away from Olsen. Oh, he's still going to be a decent tight end. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
he's still going to be your first tight end if you get him. But I just think that there's other guys you can get later on that will produce, you know, enough as far as like touchdowns and catches, and you want to try and get that running back. You know, you want to try and get a McCaffrey. You want to try and get you know, maybe a number 1 receiver as your second receiver.
right?
Which is something you can do. You can pick up Larry Fitzgerald, you know, around the same place as Greg Olson. He's the number 1 receiver on the Cardinals, and you can slip him in as your second or third receiver. And you know, Fitzgerald had a lot of catches, a lot of targets. So I mean, he's probably going to take a step back as well, though, because he's also old.
Yeah. But let's move on to the kicking situation in Carolina. Graham Gano, still the kicker.
Yeah, I like this kid, too. He's got a lot of leg. You know, made 30 field goals last year. That was good for 9th overall. Finished with 121 points. That was 15th. He does seem to kick more of the longer field goals. But, you know, and then Riverboat Ron likes to use his field goal kicker. But, you know, it's a kicker.
Yeah, last round, get your kicker.
Last round, I expect he's going to be undrafted. Maybe someone will draft him, but he's probably a streaming kicker for 1 week when your regular kicker's on a bye.
No doubt about that. And you know, the Panthers have their bye week in week 11, and their defense took a bit of a step back last year.
Yeah, they're still a good defensive unit, though, and they got the 16th easiest schedule in the league. So I mean, they're right about middle of the pack right in the middle for ease of schedule. So I still like their defense. They still have some good players. The secondary maybe not as good as you like, but they still have a decent front 7. You know, they've got Luke Kuechly. He's always good. They have a decent defensive line, and you know, Ron Rivera is still a pretty good defensive mind. But again, they play New Orleans and Atlanta twice a year, and those are 2 pretty high-powered offenses. So
this is true.
Somebody will take them, though.
Yeah,
they should have decent special teams.
They do have good special teams. Did put them right in the middle of the pack, though. Ranked them number 12 as a defense. So, you know, ceiling is very high and the floor is very low, and I think they're going to land somewhere in between. Yeah,
I look for them to be a little bit better than last year. You know, they still have some talent on that defensive line. Kawan Short, Mario Addison, and Charles Johnson, and those are 3 pretty good players for the defensive line.
Yeah, they definitely are. And the next team on our list here is a team that kind of made a lot of changes in the offseason with the New Orleans Saints.
Yep, and again, it all starts with Drew Brees passing the ball. Only guy that eclipsed 5,000 passing yards last season. Just, you know, he always finishes. Since he joined the Saints, I think he's been a top 5 quarterback every year. You know, and people are drafting him in the 3rd round, 4th round. You know, maybe you can get him in the 5th round if you want that quarterback position just locked up, where I'm not gonna worry about that position. He's gonna start 16 games, and when he's off on a bye, I'll find a quarterback to play that week. But that's the quarterback you get with Drew Brees. You have to pay the price, though.
You do. You have to get him early, but he's fantastic. I have him ranked at number 3 at quarterback, and they have an interesting situation with the running back. They have an interesting situation in the backfield with Mark Ingram and Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, plus a promising young rookie, Alvin Kamara. So again, this looks to me like one of those 3-headed monster situations. Adrian Peterson didn't do much last year. He gave it a good try, but ended up injured again. This year, he's in better shape. Mark Ingram, though, has come to camp, I think, in the best shape of his life. He's working on catching the ball in the backfield, he wants to become full, complete running back. And I know he was pretty good last year for a while. Tailed off a little bit, but I'm Mark Ingram's the guy I look for. He had 46 catches last year, which wasn't bad. That's good for 13th overall among running backs. Running the ball, he finished with over 1,000 yards. That was good for 11th, had 1,043. So, quietly got it done. I think you had him last year on your team, if I'm not mistaken.
I did, and I think a lot of people are mistakenly sleeping on Mark Ingram.
I do too.
He's a guy that, for as late as he is going to have a lot of value.
He finished with 1,362 total yards, which was good for 11th overall, and had 251 touches, which is good for 14th overall among running backs. So he's still getting it done. Last year he got it done. I don't think Adrian Peterson's going to take away from some of his touches. Maybe Alvin Kamara will, but I still think Mark Ingram's the guy to own there.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, and I've seen a lot of people that rank Peterson higher. It's kind of one of those things that you got to wait and see, but I just have such a better feeling about Ingram.
As do I, yeah. He's the guy you want. Catches the ball, runs the ball, rushing touchdowns. Let's see how many times he got in the end zone. He got in the end zone 6 times, which isn't bad, Total touchdowns, he was around, he had 10, so he had four receiving touchdowns. So he was 10th overall with total touchdowns. So, by all accounts, he's a top 10, maybe top 12 running back. So
yeah,
he's going to be someone's number 2 back if they're smart. If they overlook him, they're going to overlook him. He's going to end up being a 3rd back. And the guy that picks him up as their 3rd running back is a smart drafter.
And they'll probably use him as their 2nd.
Yeah, although they're gonna have options, to be able to play matchups with their three running backs, and that's something that you really want in fantasy football. You want to be able to play, those good matchups where you just have a great feeling,
Yeah, that's the honest truth. Moving down to their wideout situation, they had a big departure in the offseason with Brandon Cooks going to New England. But let's talk about Michael Thomas. He kind of silently, had a huge year last year.
Yeah, he was really great. He was their top guy. Young player. Had 92 catches, though, which is good for 9th overall. Finished with, he's not a burner. He's more of a big body, great in the red zone, wins the jump ball, a good route runner, but he's not gonna run by you that often. He's had five touchdowns, like I said, 92 catches, was targeted 121 times, which was good for 20th, same amount as Devontae Adams.
And Drew Brees loves him.
Yeah, and I think he had over 1,100 yards receiving. Yeah, he's a guy that I'm seeing like right at the top of the 2nd round, going end of the 1st round. I think end of the 1st round's a little rich for me. You can get guys like Jordy Nelson and A.J. Green. A.J. Green is still a monster. Hopefully A.J. Green is fully healthy. But that's the area that he's in right now. And losing Brandon Cooks is just going to open up more opportunities for him and guys like Willie Snead. And they did pick up Ted Ginn Jr. from the Panthers, who will probably fall into that third wide receiver to get in the slot, kind of run the sweeps and reverses.
Yeah, but for me, the only two guys that really want to target at wide receiver are Snead and Thomas. I had Snead last year. He's a great PPR guy out of the slot. Cannot go wrong with Willie Snead. Great value pick as well.
Yeah, 72 catches. Had a decent year as the third wideout, but don't sleep on Ted Ginn Jr. He had four touchdowns for Carolina, returns punts. Willie Snead at 895 yards. Ted Ginn Jr. at 752 yards. So I also like Ted Ginn. He's just one of those guys that had a lot of promise, and didn't really do much until Carolina. Ted Ginn had 95 targets last year. Willie Snead had 104. So they're kind of around there. Snead's kind of the burner, and Ginn's a burner as well. And then Michael Thomas is that kind of bigger target body, that you look for in the red zone. But Ted Ginn Jr. I think is a good option. Maybe just like if Willie Snead is 2 and Ted Ginn's probably 2B, and somebody's going to pick up Ted Ginn as like a fifth wideout and get some good, decent production.
Yeah, that's the truth. And Ted Ginn has some problems with drops, but I don't anticipate that to be too much of a problem.
Yeah, no, and you can probably get Ted Ginn with your 16th pick. If you got 16 rounds, you can probably pick him up in the 16th round.
This is true. You can do a lot worse with your last pick.
Yep, you sure can.
And a tight end, they still have Kobe Fleener, who really disappointed last year. He was absolutely terrible for me in all my leagues. I dropped him in every league that I had him.
Yeah, I know. At the beginning of the year, I drafted Travis Kelce, and you drafted Kobe Fleener. We were kind of like, which one of these guys is gonna, come out, break out this year? And it happened to be Travis Kelce, but Fleener, had 50 catches last year. So I wouldn't say he was a complete bust out. He had 631 yards too. Found the end zone 3 times. Was targeted 82 times though. Which is like 5 targets a game. That's not bad. Still, like you said, he's kind of probably a second tight end. But the second year in this system, with Drew Brees throwing the ball, I think Kobe Fleener's going to take a step up from last year. Now he's got a little bit of an injury problem right now. I'm not sure exactly what's bothering him. So that's something you'll have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for where you're going to be able to get him, it could be worth a nice flyer towards the end of your draft.
Yeah,
Kobe Fleener.
He's not being picked until like the 13th to 16th rounds.
Yeah, I have no problem taking him there.
Yeah,
and
I don't think there's any other tight ends besides him that are of note, right?
You have Josh Hill, who stole a few touchdowns last year.
Right, he's still there. Okay, I did not know that. Okay. Yeah, I know that the Bears had flirted with signing. I think they signed him to an offer sheet last year, and New Orleans matched it. So yeah, Josh Hill. If Fleener is injured, Josh Hill's the guy you're going to want to pick up maybe as a streaming tight end.
Yeah, and I just looked up what's going on with Fleener. He's got an undisclosed injury, so anytime you hear that, it's kind of a scary question mark.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on Josh Hill, because if Fleener's out for an extended amount of time, Breeze likes Josh Hill in the red zone.
Okay, yeah, he does. Yeah, 2 years ago, it found Josh Hill was kind of racking up some points.
But let's move on. They've got a new kicker in town.
He's the same as last year. Will Lutz.
Okay.
Will Lutz, yeah. But he's a guy I kind of been looking at as, maybe taking a step up. He finished 5th overall with 133 total points among kickers. Only had 28 field goals made, which was 12th overall among kickers. But with Drew Brees, and that hurry-up offense, he could have a lot more opportunities this year.
Yeah, this is an absolute fact, and you can't go wrong with a New Orleans kicker usually.
Right, a dome kicker too.
Yeah, that's important.
We like dome kickers.
Yes, we do, and New Orleans has their bye early in the year. They have it week 5, so Lutz could be a guy you could pick up, and if you do draft him, you have him for the tail end of the season. You don't got to worry about a kicker.
Yeah, could have that kind of Matt Bryant type second half of a season, if you pick him up after the 8th, 9th week, The New Orleans has the 15th hardest schedule, so they're right in the middle of the pack again, like Carolina and Atlanta.
Yep, and their defense is never anything too special. They've had a lot of trouble the last couple of years, but they really tried to improve this year in the draft, and with the first round pick, they picked up an awesome cornerback out of Ohio State by the name of Marshawn Lattimore.
Oh, is that where Lattimore went? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, he's going to be a good one. Did they pick up a pass rusher too?
They got with their last pick. They picked up a defensive end out of Miami, Al-Quadin Muhammad.
Okay, I didn't know that. I was thinking maybe they were the ones that picked up Charles Harris from Missouri, but he must have gone somewhere else. Okay, but yeah, the defense I'm not really looking at, as picking up this year,
Yep, they're not on the radar, so avoid them at all costs.
Yeah, yep.
But let's move on to the final team in the NFC South, the stars of this year's HBO's Hard Knocks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Right, and I keep forgetting I need to watch Hard Knocks. I haven't seen any episodes, but I heard it's been pretty good.
Yeah, I love that show, and I got to watch the premiere. I think I'm going to watch it right after we finish this.
Yeah. So who do you like on the Tampa Bay offense?
Well, they've got a big man under center in Jameis Winston, who was fantastic last year, and I expect him to take another big step forward this year.
Yeah, had 18 interceptions, right behind Phillip Rivers, who had 21. But yeah, he had over 4,000 yards passing, and a lot of those passing yards went to one guy,
Mr. Mike Evans.
Yeah, and I took a flyer on him. I think with my second pick, not really knowing he turned out to be my number one. Right, he was just a monster last year. I got lucky because I didn't know what I had really. I was just like, he's the top guy on my board. I'm going to just grab him, and man, he just really propelled me last year. I don't know, might take a step back this year. He had the most targets of any wide receiver. That was 173, so over 10 targets a game, almost 11 targets a game.
Yeah, so, he's a PPR machine.
Wow, man. 96 catches on the year. That's 6 catches a game. He was getting 6 catches, automatic 6 points at 1,321 yards, which was good for fourth. He finished with 12 receiving touchdowns, which was tied for second with Devontae Adams and Antonio Brown. What do you think Mike Evans will do again this year?
Well, personally, John, I think he's going to be great. He's still going to catch a lot of balls, but I expect him to take a step back this year. Got a talented wide receiving core around him. I mean, they picked up Deshaun Jackson in the offseason. You still have Adam Humphries, who catches a lot of balls. And then they drafted Chris Godwin out of Penn State, 6'1", 209 pounds. He's a great wideout. So Winston has a lot of great targets.
Yeah, he does. And Cameron Brate is still there. He also had a very good year for Buccaneers last year. Local kid here. Went to Naperville Central.
Yeah, and in addition to Brate, they also drafted a tight end with their first pick, O.J. Howard out of Alabama, 6'6", 250 pounds. What a massive target for Winston. Yeah,
he's a guy that I kind of want to draft this year, just because if he, but Cameron Brate is still there. Cameron Brate led all tight ends with 8 touchdowns. He was tied with Hunter Henry for an amount of touchdowns for tight ends last year. So, I mean, it's hard to discount what Brate did last year. I mean, Brate was undrafted last year in a lot of leagues.
He was not drafted in any league that I was in. I can tell you that.
And then by the end of the year, he was starting every game, like past half of the season. People were inserting him in there. Boy, did he pay off.
Yeah, I mean, people are putting Howard ahead of Brate, but I disagree with that. I think it's going to be very similar to kind of like the 2 tight end set that the Patriots ran when Aaron Hernandez was on the team.
Yeah, I do. I mean, Brate had 81 targets, and that's with Mike Evans there. 57 receptions. Like I said, 8 touchdowns, which was top among tight ends, only with Hunter Henry. And receiving yards at 660. So, I mean, Cameron Brate had an excellent season last year. I'm not really even seeing them get drafted still, and that must be because O.J. Howard is there. But O.J. Howard, hasn't done anything in the league. I know he's got a lot of promise. He's a great college. But, this is probably still Cameron Brate's team. And you might see a lot of 2 tight end sets.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And
with Jameis Winston, and all those targets, Dirk Koetter, the head coach, loves to throw the ball. So, yeah, Jameis Winston, also a sneaky quarterback pick this year. If he cut down on the interceptions, he's gonna take a step forward, like you said.
Yeah, and he's a guy that's going really late in the draft, too. You can probably get him. I've seen him go anywhere from round 6 all the way up to round 9.
Yeah, and where do you have him ranked in your quarterback rankings, just out of curiosity?
I have Winston ranked at number 7.
Yeah, it's a pretty good spot. He's which is where he finished with total touchdowns. He was tied to Tom Brady for 28. Derek Carr also had 28. Roethlisberger finished 1 ahead of them with 29. So that's about where, that's the kind of quarterback Jameis Winston is, and this is last year was his, second year or first year?
Second year.
Was his second year. So, I mean, that's pretty promising. He's lucky he's in a great offense, and this year, like you said, with Deshaun Jackson there, and he's got a lot of weapons. The only thing is who's running the football?
Well, that's a funny question, isn't it? You've got Doug Martin, Charles Sims, and Jacquizz Rodgers, all guys that are going to have a hand on the ball.
And Jeremy McNichols, too, who they drafted this year, also looks to be pretty good.
Oh, yeah, out of Boise State.
Yeah, now Doug Martin is suspended for the first 4 games of the season, I think. First 4 or first 6? First 4 games, right?
Yes.
So, and Doug Martin seems to be, kind of fallen out of favor in Tampa Bay. Although when he comes back, he's arguably going to be their most talented running back. I just can't see them not giving him the rock. Until then, yeah, I mean, Jacquizz Rodgers, you might take like a 15th round flyer on him.
Let's talk about that for 1 second. Where Jacquizz Rodgers is currently being drafted, his average draft position is somewhere between 14 and 15. That is the best value of the entire draft, in my opinion, if you look at what he did last year.
You like Jacquizz? I have 560 rushing yards last year. They filled in admirably.
Well, not only that, let's talk about how many receptions he had, John.
Yeah. Let's see. Trying to find him up there. I know. I picked him up in a lot of leagues, like just on waivers, and he did pretty good for me. Filling in. Where is Jacquizz? Honestly, don't see him up here. Do you have a number offhand of how many receptions he had?
Let me pull it back up right now. I was just looking at it and I forgot it already.
I'm not seeing him in the top 50. Yeah, Charles Sims, I see, with 24.
Yeah, I take that back. I mean, he had 13 receptions last year, but that was over the course of like a 2 or 3 game stint where he was the main guy. And
right, he had some rushing touchdowns. I know that. And Doug Martin had 3 rushing touchdowns. Yeah, I'm not seeing him. I know people are going to be like taking him though. I mean, I'm kind of like trying to stay away from that backfield. I think the only guy I would try and pick up would be Doug Martin, and that would be like after he comes back from suspension if I could get him in free agency. But I'm kind of high on the kid Jeremy McNichols out of Boise State. You know, he's a good-looking running back. I'm not so sure, you know, he won't be given a shot to emerge and maybe overtake like Charles Sims and Jacquizz Rodgers and, you know, be the number 1 or number 2 when Doug Martin comes back.
Yeah, I think he's going to have that opportunity, and I also think that Charles Sims is going to be their third down back, most likely. He's had a lot of promise, but he can't stay healthy. So for me, the guys you want to draft are Doug Martin, and then if you want to take Jacquizz Rodgers towards the end of your draft, I think that's a good value.
Yeah, and it'll probably become a lot more clear once the preseason shakes out about who's going where and who's going to do what. Right now, it's kind of a big question mark. I'm going to stay away from it and look maybe mid-year or after, you know, maybe picking up somebody on free agency or waivers like Martin or McNichols. But yeah people are going to be taking Jacquizz, you know, this just to get like 4 games of starter, you know, running back 1 out of him.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And let's talk a little bit about the kicking situation in Tampa Bay. They drafted the most highly sought-after kicker last year in Roberto Aguayo. He really struggled last year, missing quite a few kicks to the point where he was talked about possibly being cut last year. They kept him on board. They kept the faith in him. But in the offseason, they also brought in Nick Folk to compete with him for the kicking position. This is going to get really interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's going to get really interesting here.
Yeah, I mean, Aguayo, he thought he was going to be that next, you know, lock it up and, you know, forget about the kicking position for quite a while. But, yeah, he really struggled. That's going to be something to monitor. I wasn't thinking about taking a Tampa Bay kicker. It's not on my radar. I do kind of like their defense, though.
Yeah, they've got a much improved defense, and they actually weren't that bad last year.
Yeah, no, they're underrated defense. Yeah, they still have some talent there. They still have a decent pass rush, good linebackers. Let's see, but William Golston at defensive end is really good. They've got an underrated defense. Just you know, they're the best linebacker as far as solo tackles. Quan Alexander led the league in 108 tackles. So they have an underrated defense. Levante David is also a really good linebacker over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I expect the Tampa Bay to be, you know, they also have a middle of the pack schedule, fairly easy. You know, if you're looking for a defense, maybe you're streaming defenses. Tampa Bay would be an okay option.
Yeah, and let's talk for a quick second. They picked up some guys in the draft, too, to improve their defense. They picked up Justin Evans at safety from Texas A&M. He's going to be really good. Also grabbed inside linebacker Kendall Beckwith from LSU and Stevie Tuki Lovato, a nose tackle out of USC. Lovato is 6'1", 331 pounds.
Wow. Yeah, so they're looking at recruit. They should take a little step up too. You know, they're already a fairly good defense. I look for them to take a step as well, much like Atlanta.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting division. I mean, I think very well it's possible that the Buccaneers could surprise the Falcons, but for right now, we're both feeling the Falcons, and who knows, maybe Tampa Bay could sneak in and take one of those wild card spots.
Yeah, I agree. I think they could. I think they will get one of those wild card slots. You know, it's just they have a really good offense. If they can find a solid running game, then you know, it's just only going to help that passing game.
There's no doubt about that. And this is quite a lengthy chat. We talked about the NFC South. We talked about a little bit of breaking fantasy news with Zeke Elliott's suspension and a couple trades. Thank you all for tuning into the Fantasy Football Goon podcast. John, thanks again as always.
My pleasure, Joe. I love talking fantasy football.
And for all you folks listening, tune in next time. We'll be going over some more of these division previews, talking about the NFC and AFC North.
The North remembers, Joe.
The North remembers. King of the North.
We'll find out who's king of the North, right?
That's right. King of the North. And like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at FFBGoon. And make sure you check fantasyfootballgoon.com every week for our fantasy rankings for who you need to start and who you need to bench. See you guys next time.